we've taken a different approach to the way that we recognize people because everyone's individual success is so different. LPT to say, hey, we are going to recognize our community differently because what's important to them is differently. And whatever is important to you, we want to help grow and expand and celebrate alongside with you. So good morning. Welcome to another Motivational Monday. My name is Matthew Hodge, Executive Vice President here at LPT Realty. I'm joining you from LPT headquarters here in Lake Mary, Florida. I'm going to bring in Robert Palmer, founder and CEO, who is joining us from Yellowstone Club in Montana. Good morning, Robert. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. I'm doing fantastic.
It looks brisk there. We got a little cold front here. It was like in the 40s. So, I was like in a snow jacket on the way out. My wife was like, you cannot wear that to the office today. So I
Yeah,
had to put on a smaller jacket. But man, how are you, man? I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks now. How was your weekend?
I'm good, man. I got to celebrate the little interest rate drop. Rates
I,
hit the five, the beard came
yeah.
off. Uh,
Yes, sir.
Boomsday
Yes,
is looking
sir.
good.
Yes,
Boomsday is
sir.
looking good.
I'm excited to talk about that here today. I know a portion of our show today will be going through a market update where you're breaking down kind of all those things. I guess what's happening with the band around institutions trying to purchase, the $200 billion, a mortgage purchase. All those things we're going to go through today. Some of those things
And
have
we're
more
going to get
clarity than
into,
other.
Matt, is the important thing is the
Yeah.
headlines are in our favor, right? Like
Yes.
in the end, and we're going to talk about this, like whether the institutional ban has a big impact or if it even figures out how to happen doesn't matter.
Right.
We got the headlines. Like people
Correct.
are talking about housing again. Look, we're going to talk about the Compass Anywhere merger a little bit today.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or bad for the industry, it's good for headlines, right?
Yeah.
Consumers
That's
are
right.
seeing real estate related headlines, rates touch the fives. It may get easier to buy a home because institutional investors are banned. Real estate companies are merging and growing. Like we just need to get back in people's minds as
Yeah.
as a cool thing to do. We need
That's
we
right.
need we need buying and selling real estate to be cool again.
Yeah.
So I think Boomsday is right around the corner, man. But yeah,
Yes,
it's
I
exciting stuff.
totally agree. Yeah, and it's funny because I've already seen people trying to explain what is happening with these things, and I know some of those things just can't be predicted. So, we have been talking about this for a long time and what we believe is coming, and why the market is going to be right for more transactions in the future. And so, the things that we do today continue to support, our success when that time comes. But before we go there, let's start with a brokerage update. So we've got broker of the month. So I'll turn it over to you, Robert, to give us our our broker of the month.
So let's give a big congratulations to Christy Carter. I don't know if we can get her. I guess that is full screen. All right, cool. Broker of the month for December. Christy is our managing broker for the great state of Michigan. Christy, thanks for all you do. Thanks for taking care of our great agents up in Michigan and keep killing it for the LPT family. Congratulations on broker of the month.
Yes, awesome, awesome. Congratulations. So we've got a lot to cover today, so I guess we can just jump right into market update. We talked briefly about kind of what we would be talking about. So I guess what makes most sense for us to talk about? Where do we start?
I think we kick off. I don't know, man. You guys have the order of the slides. I'm thousands of miles away.
Okay.
I know
We're,
we've
we're going
got
to put slides up and you're going to talk about them. How
yeah,
about
I
that?
think so. Like just jump into the slides. I'm happy to follow Matt Levy's game plan. I know him and Dave here back there running show.
Perfect. Okay.
Cool. So yeah, this is where I thought we were going to start. So the brokerage partner bonus awards. So if you log into Connect today, you will see the brokerage partner bonus award RSU has been issued. It has a vesting start date of October 31st. It took us some time. I know there were some people thinking like, hey, why didn't this happen earlier? And so I wanted to explain like how this had to work. So one, for those of you who don't know, the brokerage partner bonus award was a program that we ran kind of toward the end of last year. We had some folks who joined LPT early. They were founders. They were bigger stock multipliers in the early days. And so we had some folks that accumulated a good amount of stock in LPT and then they left because they thought the grass would be greener somewhere else. And so I wanted to redistribute that stock that they forfeit back to the agents who do believe in LPT and are here to grow with us and go all the way with as we build this thing. And so we launched this brokerage partner bonus award. Anyone who upgraded to brokerage partner or joined as a brokerage partner prior to November of last year, all the way up through March, got these bonus RSUs. And so what we did is throughout the measurement window, which was from I think any agent you recruited who joined after November 25th, who then turned into stock during the window, didn't apply to people who you'd recruited before we launched the program. So we bundled all that up. We took the multipliers into account. And we said, okay, Matt earned, 1,000 shares. So now we're going to issue this bonus RSU for another 1,000 shares on top of that. Those RSUs got issued today in Connect. They use your original multiplier is included in there, but you don't get the multiplier a second time. So you'll see that if you do the math, it adds up to your total shares with the multiplier that were eligible, and now it's in there. So really exciting. We issued almost 1 million shares under that program. So again, a really big thank you to the agents who are here at LPT, who are all in with us. That is a 5-year vest. So you're stuck with us for the next 5 years. We hope you're happy about that. I'm happy about the idea of you all being here with me for the next 5 years. But this was all about redistributing the shares that some of those early folks who came in and helped build LPT and then decided they wanted to go chase something else and they left. And I wanted to get those shares back in the hands of our amazing agents. So the brokerage partner bonus RSUs are now in Connect. If you have any questions about that, you can submit a ticket. We're going to have a group set up to answer any questions you have about that. But again, they're out there excited to issue that. And so basically what happened is, first we had to issue all the shares, all the RSUs during the measurement period, which was again, like from last November through the end of October. So like, remember, it takes us a little bit of time to get all your transactions in and get the paperwork processed. So by mid-November, we were able to issue the normal RSUs for October. And then in mid-December, we issued and calculated the bonus RSUs, and then we had to go through legal and get them approved. But anyway, long story short, they are now in your Connect account. Really excited about that. And look, it's a good time, man. It's a good time to be talking about the stock because of what is going on with Compass and Anywhere. So before we get on to kind of where we think the impact of Compass and Anywhere is going to have on brokerage stock values as a whole, and why I think LPT is really well positioned to be the only competitor that really can now go compete with Compass with the new scale they have. Any comments you want to make on the brokerage partner bonus award there,
Yeah,
Hodge?
absolutely. So, it's when we first started, I remember the thought process was like, hey, there's more risk to a brand new company. And so, there was a higher incentive. So, hey, the people who were agent number one, right? Like there's clearly way more risk than agent number 20,000, right? And so the people who believed early had a bigger incentive and because it was more risk. But for some reason, some people don't always, kind of stick with the plan and they start to think, that this grass is greener on the other side, or they start to believe that there's a magic pill to their success somewhere else. And we know that's just not the case. And so it's unfortunate because they ended up giving up, a lot of stock, which of course we benefit from, our current shareholders on the call benefit from. But, it's sad to see that we set out something that was designed to help them grow, to help them have a future, with, I guess, dignity, you could say, retire with dignity, right? Like have this path of equity inside the company, and they gave it up because someone, I guess, frauded them into thinking that there was a magic pill somewhere else. So it's sad to see that, but excited to see that the current shareholders are still here with us and they're benefiting from this additional shares that are flowing through our ecosystem. So excited to be a part of that mission. But I think it's important also to understand how that makes sense in the world that's happening in this consolidation that you're seeing inside the real estate space. So I know you're going to talk about that, but I think it makes even more sense now that we see the actual shares in our account. Okay, so
Yeah.
what does that mean now in the market?
So again, everybody at LPT who's had at least one closing has RSUs that will vest, 3-year vesting on our normal RSUs and 5-year vesting on this bonus RSUs. Because again, I want you guys to stick around with me as we build this thing. Let's throw the next slide up and talk about what's going on in kind of the brokerage landscape. And so, Compass acquired Anywhere. And this is really interesting because if we go back to August of 2024, these are the market caps on the biggest publicly traded brokerages. So if you go back to August of 2024, Real was worth around 1.3 billion, EXP was under just a touch under 1.9 billion, and Compass was worth 2.1 billion. And this really is when what I would call Compass's breakout started. And so what I really want everybody to understand here is that the value of companies is not just about agent count. It's not just about transaction count. It's about how well those companies are run. And so Compass went through a period of time where they were run pretty poorly. And, their IPO didn't do all that well. They had, the issues with SoftBank and kind of, being a large investor and everything going on. And they made some mistakes. Well, starting around August of 2024, on mid 2024, Compass started making smart moves, for their stock and for their shareholders and kind of getting their house in order. And so if we fast forward to today, Real's gone down 33% in value. They're only worth 870 million today. EXP went down 21% in value. Even though, Real's agent count went up by 10,000, they lost 33% in value. They were banking on a lot of things, Matt, like this credit card and the mortgage play and the title play, and a lot of those things, if you listen to their earnings calls, just didn't come to fruition. EXP has had trouble with growth. Their agent count's been flat, eking out revenue gains just because home prices are going up. And so again, then you look at Compass down here, and we wake up today. Compass is up 237% since mid 2024. And if you break out the Anywhere acquisition, so Compass paid 1.6 billion for Anywhere. So if we say, okay, Compass is worth 7.2 billion today after the acquisition, 1.6 of that is Anywhere, meaning the remaining 5.6 of that is Compass. And so Compass with only 40,000 agents is worth $5.6 billion if you back out what they just paid for Anywhere. Anywhere with 300,000 agents is only worth 1.6 billion because they're stuck in that legacy franchise mold. And then, you've got EXP with 80,000 agents, double the number of agents as EXP, but only worth, about a quarter as much. You've got Real with 30,000 agents, worth 1/5 or 1/6. And so I just point all this out because it's not just about agent count. It's not just about transaction count. It's about how dynamic is the business. And this is one of the reasons that LPT is focused on listing power tools, is focused on all of the amazing programs we have inside the brokerage, the marketing products that we provide for our agents, helping agents become more productive. Like all of that is what's really important to building a long-term, healthy, sustainable business. And so by anchoring in the idea of, first of all, agent choice. We don't force anybody to buy listing power tools products. We don't force anybody to participate in LPT Plus or Team Growth Plus. Like these are optional decisions you make. But when you make that choice, you drive additional, revenue and profit into the company. And those dynamics are what makes LPT successful and positions LPT for success. It's how we've been able to be profitable, even at our size, something the other cloud brokerages were never able to pull off. Compass had massive losses as they're growing. And so, we're just really focused on building a different kind of company here. A company that, again, leans into agent choice. We remain real estate first, but also building what can be a successful enterprise because we do want to build something big. I didn't self-fund this company and come out of retirement and do all this to not build something big and successful. There's two goals for me. One is partnering with amazing entrepreneurs, which I get to do each and every day. And real estate is such a great vehicle to do that. But two, I want to build a really successful company. I want the value created through those RSUs that you all earn as you're closing transactions and, as you're attracting other people into the brokerage. Like I want that to be valuable. I want this to be the most valuable real estate company in the world. And so we've got a different philosophy in how we achieve that. We've got a different business model. It's funny looking at us from the outside. People think we look like this or we look like that. Matt, you know how complex of an actual business we are running inside here between the listing power tools, all the other amazing things we've built to help empower agents while also driving enterprise value for the brokerage. So I'm really proud of where we sit today. I'm proud of everybody who's on this call for being on this journey with us. And I'll tell you from a LPT standpoint, from a comp standpoint, having Compass now being valued north of $7 billion is fantastic when they were only worth $2 billion 18 months ago. So Wall Street is looking at our sector again. They're really looking at where some of the early cloud brokerages failed. Why couldn't they make it work? Why can't they figure out how to actually make money? Why were they chasing mortgage and title and credit cards and all this stuff instead of bringing real value to their agents through marketing and technology the way we have? I'm excited for the future, man. And I think that originally Compass wasn't supposed to close until the end of this year. I think it's fantastic for us they did this early because now there's going to be a lot of proof in their financial results, over the next 8 to 10 months.
That's right. And it's interesting because when you first kind of like started rolling out this idea of like, hey, when you bundle these ancillaries together, when you try to make that your model, when you force agents to use this particular person, it actually hurts the experience of the consumer. And so you said, I want to empower our big team leaders. I want to empower our entrepreneurs to make those connections and have those pieces of the business and let them be the best at it versus us saying, hey, we're going to go try to find the best mortgage broker in every single city in the entire United States. We know that's not how it works. And so I'm excited to see that our model is starting to really show the difference because we're profitable in a different way. And we're profitable because we are making our agents do more transactions because of the support that we provide. And that is so important. Not only does it give us more cash today, but it makes the company itself more valuable, which again, when you're talking about shareholder value, that's going to be so important. So thank you for breaking that down. We've had some additional headlines in the market. So you kind of alluded earlier that things are going, towards this boomsday scenario that we talked about, and that the headlines are finally starting to cooperate and talk about those things that we have been preaching for months now. So
Yeah.
if we could pull up, I would love to put those headlines up, and Robert, if you could walk us through kind of what you're seeing here from, kind of what you envisioned.
The headlines are fantastic. We need positive headlines, right? We need all those home buyers that are sitting on the sidelines to see positive reinforcement from the media around what's going on in our industry. And so we had a big win last week with rates briefly dipping below 6%. There were some 5.99s, being advertised on Mortgage News Daily. The important thing here is that, Market Watch picked it up. NBC News picked it up. Scotsman Guy, a little more industry niche, but it's still being seen out there. And so I want to touch on that. And then we have the second headline around this idea of banning the institutional investors and what impact that will have. So the big headline, I think, for us is mortgage rates. And so, the president came out and said, hey, we're going to direct Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to buy $200 billion worth of mortgage-backed securities in order to help drive down mortgage rates. And so then you've got a lot of pundits out there saying, well, is this going to work? Why, is this enough? Is this actually going to move rates down? Well, first of all, it already did, right? Just the news of it caused rates to drop from around 6.2, 6.3 down to that 5.99 mark, because the mortgage-backed securities are now expecting additional liquidity to be created. And so again, regardless of how well this works, the headline has already helped us, but I'm going to give you my insight. And I have a lot of insight into this because of the big mortgage portfolio that I control, the mortgage bonds that we trade, and that's something I've been doing for almost 2 decades now. And so here's why I think this, timing wise, is actually going to be really good for us as long as they execute on it correctly. So first of all, the goal of the program should not be to try to drive rates down dramatically. The goal of the program, and I think this is how they're thinking about it from what I've read and how traders are talking about it, is just to keep rates in the high fives, right? If we can keep that magic 5 handle, if we can keep that magic 5.99 in play, which psychologically is very important to home buyers, that is a critical step. And so if they bought all 200 billion and just like launched the liquidity bazooka at the MBS market, maybe they could drive them down lower, but it would be temporary and it'd pop back up. And so my hope is that they use this 200 billion worth of Fannie and Freddie buying. And the nice thing is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are very sophisticated when it comes to mortgage capital markets. Sometimes the Fed, I think, looks at things through too broad of a lens. If we go back to the pandemic, I think the Fed injected way too much liquidity into mortgage rates. Like, we didn't need people getting rates in the 2s. Everybody would have been perfectly happy in like the mid 3s. But the Fed shot too much liquidity into the market at once. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are more sophisticated. They understand the actual pricing metrics, and they understand there's only certain mortgage coupons that need to overperform in order to hit that magic 5.99 number. And so as long as they focus the 200 billion strategically on the right mortgage coupon, so that, hey, rates go to 6.1, let's buy enough mortgage bonds to bring them back to 5.99, and then let that go for a little bit. Oh, rates go back to 6.05, let's buy enough mortgage bonds to bring them back to 5.99. If that's the approach they take, the 200 billion actually has a pretty good runway to make that happen when you look at the current market. What happens is the spread between the 10-year Treasury and the mortgage-backed securities, which right now is around 2%, right? The 10-year Treasury is around like a 4.0, 4.1, and then you've got mortgage rates in like low 6s, high 5s. And so what happens is there's a point where you can't drive it any lower, because all of a sudden that liquidity will get sucked out by what we call arbitrage traders. And so as long as that spread between the 10-year and the 30-year fixed stays above about a 1.7, I think this 200 billion can do a lot to move the rates close to that 1.7 mark. And so we need the 10-year to stay about where it is for this strategy to be effective. And then we need them to be slow and be strategic in where they're buying and how they're buying, which is not traditionally how the Fed has done it, because the Fed normally buys is the first time Fannie and Freddie are buying in this type of cadence. And so again, we're in a good spot. This is not the Fed just, again, throwing a liquidity bomb at the 10-year Treasury and mortgage-backed securities. This is a strategic effort to drive mortgage rates down closer to that 170 spread between the 10-year Treasury and mortgage rates. And I actually think if that's how they execute on this, I think they can do a very good job of keeping mortgage rates in the high 5s through the duration until we see inflation get out of the way. and the 10-year Treasury starts to drop, and then mortgage rates will catch up. So on a scale of like 1 to 10, how good is this for Boomsday? This gets a 10. I mean, this is fantastic. It's giving us headlines now at the time of year when a lot of buyers naturally perk up. We are in January. A lot of New Year's resolutions are, we're going to buy this year. We're going to move this year. We're going to get out of the house that's too small. I'm going to quit living in the Airstream trailer in the back of the house. Like, this is the year we're going to do it. And now buyers are getting reinforced by positive headline. Interest rates get below 6 for the first time in years. It's being caused by the administration having Fannie and Freddie pump this liquidity into the market. So I give that headline a 10 out of 10 from prepping for Boomsday. And I believe this is an actual strategy that, if executed correctly, will give us the result we need. The second headline we have is about banning institutional buyers. Now, I've seen a lot of skepticism around this. A lot of people have attacked this. Oh, it's not going to make that big of a difference. They only control 6 or 7% of home purchases, this and that. What I will tell you is this is very much a geographically concentrated issue. All right. There are certain markets where, yes, if you look nationally, this isn't a problem, but there are certain markets where it's a massive problem. And more importantly, there are certain price points where it's a massive problem, right? The institutional investors are buying at that traditional first-time home buyer bucket. And so if you look at it through a broad lens and say, well, they're only 7% of all home purchases. If you isolate that down to certain zip codes at certain price points, it is a much bigger problem. And so there will be places in the US and price points where that would be beneficial to home buyers having less competition. Regardless of that, just the idea, just the headline, just the optics that it may be a little bit easier to buy a house if this goes through will move people off the sidelines. And that's the thing we care about the most. We know once we get them off the sidelines, you as experts, professionals, you're going to guide them through the process. You're going to find them the right house. We just need them to mentally get off the sidelines, get off the fence, come into the market. And this combination of the idea that, hey, rates are finally back to 5, which feels really great right now, where it would not have felt so great a couple years ago, combined with, hey, maybe banning institutional investors is going to make it a little easier for me to buy a house. Whether it does or not, the headline is effective for us to bring more buyers into the market, which will ultimately also create more inventory because a lot of those buyers also have a house to sell. So I think both of these headlines are very, very positive for Boomsday, and we continue to be set up to have a fantastic 2026.
Awesome, man. I love it. So I'm going to point a couple things out real quick. One, I think it's fantastic that you gave it a 10 out of a 10. Maybe we should come up with like a list of like, as these things go down, we'll keep track of them. But everyone on the call, you're going to experience what we've watched for years. We've always said Robert has this ability to look around corners, and it takes a little while for you to start to really trust in it. And so even when we talked about the launch of LPT, when you said it was time, and we're all like, what? Are you crazy? It seems like the absolute worst time to do it. You were right. And so you've been talking about this market changing, and you've been talking about it being in 2026, and you've been talking about all the things now that are starting to hit the headlines to the point where it's almost like, okay, we get it, but it's actually happening. And so this should build some confidence into our viewers that we are accurately watching the market. Robert is actually interpreting it in the right way. And if you do the work today, you will benefit when these things start to actually, turn into transactions for you. So you got to continue to do the work. You got to continue to follow the guidance. You got to continue to trust that we are watching and looking out for you on behalf of LPT agents and really the industry everywhere, because I know there's so many people who tune in. We know you're not with LPT, but you're still watching, and we love it. All right, so I love that piece. I want to go over to some awards. This is something that
the
we
Dezzy
have
Awards,
been,
man.
Yeah,
This
the
is
Dezzy
super
Awards.
exciting. We
Yes.
saved the most exciting piece of Motivation Monday for last. So
That's right.
we are going to be launching what we're calling the Dezzy Awards, the 2025 Dezzy Awards. I'm going to get into exactly what this is. It is a unique way for us to recognize top producing LPT agents across the country down to the zip code level. Because what we found is one of the weaknesses of the cloud brokerage is as you put, 20, 30, 40, 100,000 agents on a single platform, people start to get lost, because if you're only recognizing the top 10 agents in the country or the top 10 agents in the state, you're leaving a lot of people behind. Where if you look at the traditional real estate offices, the brick and mortar franchises, because they're smaller and they're more geographically dense, they're able to recognize top producers at a very granular level. And so we're going to solve that with the Dezzy Awards by going all the way down to the zip code level in order to recognize top producers, something that's never been done before. It only works because of our technology. technology. So the official awards ceremony is going to be 2 weeks from today on a special Motivation Monday that will be, again, January 26th. We're going to have a special 1 hour long Motivation Monday where we're going to go through our 2025 Dezzy Awards. And at the conclusion of that ceremony, everyone will have their Dezzy Awards graphics waiting for them inside of LPT Connect. Again, recognizing agents at the zip code level, the city level, all across the board. Because again, this is how we solve for the scale of a cloud brokerage, having certain agents feel like, well, hey, no matter how hard I work here in my zip code, I'm never going to be number one in the state, or I'm never going to be number one in the country. And we don't want you to feel that way, because we want you to be the best agent you can be for your local geography. And more importantly, we want your customers in your sphere to know that you're the best agent in your zip code, in your city, in your local geography. And so we had to get more granular with the recognition. There's been on my mind since day one. Part of the problem is we had to get to a certain scale before you can do this, right? You can't do this when you're in one state and you only have, 1,000 agents, and you can't do it when 70% of your agents have been at the brokerage for less than a year because you don't have enough data. And so the industry challenge, as I explained, is the cloud brokerages, the big unified brokerages, while I think we have so much advantage over the legacy franchise offices, the legacy small independents, the one place that they really were able to do a much better job than the legacy cloud brokerages was on recognition at the hyper local level. Again, if you're at a franchise office that only covers 3 or 4 zip codes, you can be number one in that office much easier than you can be number one in a national cloud brokerage. And so again, we don't want people getting left behind. We don't want people not being able to celebrate those wins or being viewed by their peers as not as successful just because they've joined a platform that has very, very large national producers. And so again, the Dezzy Awards is our answer to this. We decided not to accept the old answer, so we built something completely new. So how does this work? The 2025 Dezzy Awards are going to recognize excellence where it actually happens, not just where volume is the easiest to accumulate. This means agents compete in their real market context, not against an uneven playing field. So we have over 2,000 categories. Okay. There are 2,000 opportunities to be a top producer inside of the Dezzy Awards because we're recognizing national, state, city, and zip code. And so you can be the top LPT agent in zip code 32779 and be recognized for that without having to try to beat someone who's selling homes in Miami or California. Again, so we're bringing this together to be more granular. So 2,000 categories. We think we'll probably have around 4,000 or 5,000 total awards issued across the 2,000 categories, so that a big chunk of our LPT family who are out there doing amazing things in their local market will be recognized with an amazing Dezzy graphic that they can then post and share, sharing that they're a top producer in this particular category. Why now? So again, sometimes I think people forget how young we are. We are not even 4 years old yet as a brokerage. We're coming up on it. March of 2026 will be our four-year anniversary as a company. And so what I want you to think about is, one, for this to work, we need to see your whole year's production, right? And so if you think about, let's go back to 2024. What percentage of our agents were even with the brokerage by March of 2024? It's only like a third, because we're growing so fast and people are joining every day. So this year, 2025, is finally the year that we felt like we had enough density. We had opened the entire country. We were in all 50 states for pretty much the entire year. We got the Deloitte Fast 500 ranked number 2 in the US. All that growth has finally given us the scale to make this a reality. Now, why haven't the other cloud brokerages done this? I don't know. They've had the scale much longer than we have. We're the new kid on the block, but this is the first year that we've had the scale across the organization to do this, to be able to recognize all of you at your individual level, which again goes back to what? Individual definition of success. If your goal is to be the number one agent in the zip code that you work in, I want to be able to recognize you for that. I don't want you to feel left out or lesser than because you can't be the number one agent in the state or the number one agent in the country, but you can be the number one agent in that zip code, and that can align with your individual definition of success. So this is something that's been really important to us from day one. We finally hit the scale, and we finally got the technology and everything lined up to where we can do this. We took a look at this last year, and we just weren't able to do it. The data wasn't there, the scale scale wasn't there. The awards didn't really make sense. We are a much bigger company today, and I'm excited to be rolling this out 2 weeks from today. All right, so recognizing excellence. So we talked about national, state, city, and zip code, right? There's over 2,000 zip codes and cities and states, and obviously the national rankings that we're going to do. On top of that, we're going to recognize some special subcategories inside of the brokerage. So we're going to recognize our top agents that are members of LPT Plus. We're going to recognize our top 3-year growth agents. So if you're an agent who was with LPT in 2023 and you're still with LPT in 2025 and you've had growth, and we have some amazing agents. We have agents that I think the top agent grew their business over that 3-year window by 800%. When I ran the numbers. And so I think, they did like 400,000 or 500,000 in 2023, and now they're doing over 4 million in 2025. So again, if you've been with the brokerage for 3 years, we're going to look at you for that top 3-year growth. We're going to give awards around who's using the most listing power tools, who's ordering the most power packs, who's doing the most power mails. So on top of the normal kind of top producers around national, state, city, and zip code, we're going to do some special LPT categories as well. Top LPT Plus producers, top growers, top listing power tools users. I see some questions in the chat around teams. So here's how we're going to handle this. Our teams are recognized through real trends. And so again, we're still going to run the rankings for, hey, these are the top teams. These are how teams perform. The Dezzy Awards are really focused more on individual efforts. And so what we're doing though is we're going to be ranking team members and solo agents. In some categories, they're going to go together, right? Like top agent in a zip code. We're going to have a handful of solo agents, a handful of team members. We're not going to differentiate. We're just going to say, hey, these are the top agents in this zip code. When we come to things like growth, we are going to have 2 different categories. We're going to say, hey, here's the top growing solo agents, and here's the top growing team members. And so where we think it makes sense, we're going to designate between team member and solo agent. In other places where it doesn't, we're just going to run everybody together. We've put a lot of thought into how to make this as absolutely as fair as possible. And then our team leaders are going to be ranked again based on overall team performance. Most of our team leaders are qualifying for Real Trends. We're going to absolutely crush Real Trends this year, but don't worry, we've built this Dezzy Awards in a way to recognize everyone for their excellence at the individual level, at the team level, at the team member level, throughout the country and throughout these additional award topics. So really excited about that. One other thing I'll add in there is, and actually Shannon Bagadonis made me think of this. If you started a team late in the year, we're still going to judge you as a solo agent for that team leader. So like Shannon as an example, I remember seeing her in the data. We have her team being formed in like October of November of last year. Obviously the bulk of the year she was a solo agent. And so we're judging her as a solo agent for the bulk of the year. There's a handful of team leaders that made that transition late. If you're a team leader for the whole year, you're being judged as a team leader, right? We're judging you on the overall performance of your group. So that's the different classifications. We've got our team leaders, we've got our solo agents, we've got our team members. And again, the idea here is to recognize everyone's contribution, everyone's excellence at the most granular level possible. So Dezzy's going to generate an award graphic for the top producers across every category and geography, ensuring consistency, accuracy, and scale that's never existed before. We have 2 weeks before these awards get generated, right? So today's the 12th. The deadline to get your files, your final files for 2025 through compliance and everything for us to know about them is Wednesday, the 15th. Right. So if you have a check that's trailing from a title company or you're missing a document or whatever with compliance, make sure that you get all your paperwork in by January 15th. That will be the cutoff for us to go back and measure 2025. If you are a member of LPT Plus, or if you join LPT Plus by the deadline, you'll be eligible for that special subset of LPT Plus awards. But really, January 15th is that cutoff. And then we're going to have the next, 13 days after that or whatever, 11 days after that to get all the awards finalized and generated. We've got the rough data. I've reviewed it. It looks great. We're going to run it one more time to make sure all the transactions are counted. In addition to that, make sure that your headshot is in Dezzy. So you need to make sure that your active marketing plan inside of Dezzy has a headshot that's approved and lined up, because that is the headshot of you that Dezzy is going to use to put onto your graphic trophy when we generate the awards 2 weeks from today. So again, handling this at scale required high-powered AI in Dezzy. It required sophisticated underlying data. We have all that at LPT because we built our systems from scratch, but your homework assignments are make sure you have that headshot approved on the active marketing plan. So Dezzy can put your headshot on the award graphic, your award trophy, and then make sure any trailing transactions get finalized and completed so we can count them for 2025. This is the other really cool thing we're going to do with this. So we stole this from Real Trends. So one of the things that Real Trends does is they run that list of top winners in the Wall Street Journal. We're going to do the same thing with the Dezzy Awards. So we're going to take out an ad in the Wall Street Journal to recognize the top winners across all the different categories. And then in addition to that, we're going to run ads, recognition ads in local newspapers as well, where we have the highest density. So places like San Antonio and Houston and Tampa and Orlando, Reno, San Diego, the cities where we have the highest density of transactions. We're also going to run local newspaper recognition as well. And so don't worry, when we announce the awards in 2 weeks, we'll let you guys know, hey, make sure you go check out the Sunday paper, probably a week or two after that, so you can grab a Sunday paper, see your name in there if you've qualified for one of the awards that makes it into print, because we don't just want the recognition to be with the social media graphics that you're going to be able to post. We want to recognize you as well. And so the Wall Street Journal and those local newspapers will be the way for us to do that. And again, we took this idea from Real Trends. They put the top teams in the country in the Wall Street Journal. We're taking it one step further with the Wall Street Journal for the national awards and the state awards, but then we're also going to use those local newspapers for some of the more granular awards, like the top zip code producers in the area and things like that. So yeah, mark your calendar. The Dezzy Awards coming up January 26th. 1 hour long Motivation Monday. We're going to be recognizing a lot of the growth awards, the LPT Plus awards, the state level awards on Motivation Monday. Obviously, I can't call out all 5,000, 4,000 names that qualify at the zip code level and everywhere else on Motivation Monday. We are going to highlight some of those, but then you'll have your awards graphics inside of LPT Connect. And then a lot of the awards will also be included in those newspaper ads. All right, Jason Clark bringing up Canada. This is a great topic. Canada's going to have to wait 1 more year for this. So just like I couldn't do it in the United States last year, we didn't have enough density yet. The first Canadian Dezzy Awards will be next year because again, we don't have enough history yet. A lot of you, we've only been in Canada for 1 year. Most of the agents in Canada have not even been here, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months because we've been growing. So Canada's going to have to wait 1 more year before we're able to do the Dezzy Awards there. But pretty much any country we expand into as we grow, once we get to that critical mass, once we get to that density, we're going to add those additional countries. So the US agents had to wait almost 4 years to get the Dezzy Awards. The Canadian agents are only have to wait 2 years because we are growing faster and we are figuring this out at a bigger scale. So this year will be US only. Next year we'll be adding Canada as well, which will give all of you amazing Canada agents time next year to get those transactions in and get that growth in and make sure you are positioned for a 2026 Dezzy Award, which we'll announce in early 2027.
That is them. So I'm excited for the 26th of January, where we get to kick this off. It's going to be amazing. And what I love about this is that, as entrepreneurs, there is no ceiling on our ambition. And of course, you're going to define your version of success the way that you choose. But everyone has a starting point. When I first got into real estate, I was doing it part-time and, eventually transitioned into full-time, eventually transitioned into luxury. Like, your starting point makes no difference. And what I love about this is that we've taken a different approach to the way that we recognize people because everyone's individual success is so different. And so before we just go, okay, you sold the most amount of transactions, you did the most amount of volume, and that was just what we did. This is such a more organic feel. It's so, I guess, LPT to say, hey, we are going to recognize our community differently because what's important to them is differently. And whatever is important to you, we want to help grow and expand and celebrate alongside with you. So I love this thoughtful approach. So excited for the 26th. Can't wait to see all those names in there. And in the Wall Street Journal, it's just so sick, man. I'm so excited. So excited. Yeah. Anyways, we are over time. So final words from you, Robert, and Motivational Monday today.
Yeah. So again, make sure you mark your calendar. Let's load up Motivational Monday for the 26th for those Dezzy Awards. Next week, we'll probably do a bit of a deeper dive into the Compass Anywhere merger and some of the overall brokerage landscape. Again, guys, it's 2026. This is our year. Boomsday is coming. The headlines are stacking up. It all started when the Fed got out of the way by cutting those short-term rates. Even though it didn't impact mortgage rates immediately, it set up what we needed for all this other momentum to come. We're in the news again as an industry. We've We've got positive things happening on Wall Street, thankfully, because of Compass. Even though the other cloud brokerages let us down, at least Compass stepped up and had some positive momentum on Wall Street. It's going to be a great year. 2026 is the year that LPT has its breakout. It will be the first big, positive non-4 million crappy worst home sales year in history that we'll be together as a family and as a company, and I'm looking so forward to it. So keep doing the work, keep getting out there and serving your clients. Keep racking up your individual definition of success. We are here to celebrate it. I'm so proud for the 2025 Dezzy Awards and recognizing all of our amazing agents, from solo agents to team members. It's going to be fantastic. And again, we are still going to crush real trends with those mega teams and big teams we have, but we wanted to create an internal mechanism to reward everyone at their individual definition of success. And that's the one thing that we will stay committed to. Whatever that individual definition of success is, we are here to support it. We are here to help drive excellence and drive you to be the best version of that IDOS that you want to be. So make it a great week. I'll hopefully still be clean shaven next week if this $200 billion strategy can be executed correctly and slowly to keep rates in the fives. Make it a great week, guys, and we'll see you next Monday.